everyone, and welcome back to Soil Talks. This podcast is part of the InBestSoil Project, where we explore how soil shapes our landscape and how our food systems and our future, and why taking care of them really matters. In our first episode, we were in the Cartagena La Unión in Murcia, Spain, looking at how scientists are working to bring life back to the soils affected by mining activities. Then we moved up to the north of Europe in Vilnius, where we explored how even urban soils and green spaces can make cities healthier and more resilient. And today we're back in Spain. We traveled to our first lighthouse, El Baldío de Talaván in Cáceres, Extremadura, where since 1993, the site has been showing how livestock farming can actually help restore biodiversity and soil health. We're joined today by Rocío Seisdedos and Begoña Lozano from Fundación Global Nature and María Catalán from the ACTYVA Cooperative, who are leading this lighthouse. First, we have Rocío Seisdedos, technician in the Grazing Area at the Fundación Global Nature, where she works on initiatives linked to the sustainable livestock farming, biodiversity conservation, and soil health. She's joined by the Begoña Lozano, also technician in Grazing Area at Fundación Global Nature, an accredited professional in holistic management with the Sauer Institute. We are so pleased to welcome María Catalán, Project Coordinator at ACTYVA at Lighthouse, an accredited professional in holistic management with the Sauer Institute. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Andrés, for inviting us. And thank you for all of you for staying here with us, sharing some experience.
To start, for listeners outside Spain, could you explain what is a Dehesa is and what makes El Baldío such a special place?
Well, the Dehesa is an ecosystem that comes from human activity in the Mediterranean forest. It is mainly a sparse woodland with different tree species, but dominated by the Quercus genus and pastures. The main economic activity there is livestock farming, but there can also be dryland agriculture and forestry as well. It's one of the most biodiverse ecosystems in Europe. It's actually listed as a high nature value farmland and has characteristic species of conservation importance. El Baldío is a special place because it's an experimental site. We put to use good practices in cattle farming, and then we can observe and measure the results these practices have in restoring degraded soil. This way, we can have scientific evidence to support the use of these practices. Also, El Baldío is a place where other farmers can come and share their experiences and promote these good cattle farming practices.
Well, before starting your restoration work, what were the main things of soil degradation and how did they affect to the land?
In El Baldío, after many years of very low livestock density, contrary to the common belief that livestock is harmful to the ecosystem, we realized that the soil was severely degraded, and also the pasture. The pastures was with a very low quality, with many nitrophilic plants, and also plants with a low palatability. So we also saw a large amount of bare soil, heavily compacted soil. That was all these conditions were directly affecting to biodiversity and nutrient and mineral cycles. So in general, the ecosystem of the farm before the implementation of the rotational grazing was really bad. The conditions were really bad. We had low nutrient availability, and poor infiltration, a lot of bare soil, as I told you. So the resulting was a very poor quality pasture that even wasn't enough for feeding the livestock that we had.
Okay, here the key strategy here's the rotational grazing. What exactly does this involve?
Basically, it's about mimic nature, where large herds of wild ungulates create short grazing periods, followed by long recovery times. It's involved dividing the farm into smaller paddocks and moving the animals regularly from one area to another, allowing the grazed section enough time to the recovery before being grazing again. This approach helps maintain healthier soils, improve grass quality and productivity, and also prevent overgrazing and soil erosion.
And why did it choose this approach instead of traditional grazing systems?
We choose this system because we realized that the way that the animals are management wasn't improving the ecosystem. Like, as I told you, the ecosystem was really degraded. We had a lot of bare soil. So for us, it was really important the time that the animal spent in each paddock, and also the time for resting. This time of resting allows the pastures and the soil to recover. So this is because under conventional grazing, the animal selects the plants that they like the most and leaves the ones that they like less, so leading to overgrazing. As a result, those plants eventually die off, leaving only the less palatable ones and degrading the ecosystem.
So the way the animals graze is what actually triggers the biological process underground. Is that what you call the carbon pump?
Yes, exactly. The way the animals graze plays a key role in activating the biological process in the soil by creating short grazing periods followed by recovery periods. Plants regrow and send more carbon-rich compounds through their roots into the soil, and this stimulate microbial activity, improving the soil structure, increasing organic matter, and ultimately allows grassland to function as carbon sinks.
You also use an or practice called livestock binning or redileo in Spanish. Can you explain what is this practice involves?
Well, yes, it is an ancestral methodology. It actually originated from the Mediterranean Dehesa systems. It's a livestock management technique where you confine temporarily the herd into a small pen. And this way you concentrate manure deposition and the trampling in a very small concentrated area. So each night, you move your animals to small mobile enclosures, and they generally stay there until the morning. This process is repeated for a few days before you move your small pen to another location. So this way, each night, there is a small area that has like a very intensive impact, but you move it, so then you have a long recovery time before the herd feeds on that specific area again. This way, you are adding a large amount of organic matter and nutrients to the soil, and you promote the regeneration of herbaceous vegetation. And so therefore you have better pastures, and you create systems that are called majadales.
Are there any practical consideration farmers that should keep in mind when setting up the upinning system?
Yes, for Redileo, it is necessary to take into account the resting period. Redileo, as Rocío told, is a very intensive practice in a very short period of time, in a night or 2 nights. And we need a very long resting period for recovering the soil and the pasture. And nowadays we are looking at around a year in El Baldío farm. So we wait until 1 year to see that the soil and the pasture have recovered. And on the other hand, it is important to calculate the area of the pen based on the numbers of animals you have. I mean, it's something that is need to be planned. You need to organize the pen and the nights that the animals are going to stay in the pen. It depends. We are now doing it just one night per pen, but you can do it 2 nights or 3 nights depending on the ecosystem and on the impact that you want to make. But it is really important, the planification of that. Also, we estimate 2 square meters per sheep, and that's how we calculate the area of the pen. There are some recommendation also of the weather. For example, if it's raining a lot and the weather is waterlogged, I do not recommend to do Redileo because of mud. It can generate some problems for sheep. So, and also it is important to take into account the infrastructure that you are going to use. I mean, because the material of the pen, because you are going to move it almost every day. So you need to think what material is better for you. I mean, it needs to be lightweight, and the enclosure has to have access to water. So it's something that you also need to plan if you need to install drinkers or the installed pipes on how you develop the water system. In general, I would say that you need to plan it well.
Okay. You compare sustainably managed areas with control areas. What difference have you observed in organic matter between these two?
Okay, in our case, in El Baldío, in InBestSoil, we have compared rotational grazing with no intervention and with conventional grazing. What we observe that both the amount of organic matter and also its recycling are higher in the rotational grazing areas, because in general there is a greater soil cover and more distribution of dung because the animals are moving, and the activity of the decomposer is also higher. So as we observe, we observe a more living soil in rotational grazing.
Mm. Well, beyond the soil measurements themselves, what other changes or improvements have you noticed at the Baldío?
There has also been an increase in certain plants of interest to the ecosystem and for livestock feed, such as some species of grasses and legumes. When we use rotational grazing with resting periods, we allow these plants to grow, these species that usually do not thrive under continuous grazing. So, and also in general, we saw a greater biodiversity, not only in plants, but also in pollinators, soil decomposer, fauna from the soil, and birds. I mean, in general, the whole ecosystem changes when practices are improved. And similarly, on a social level, we are trying to build a community of people commit to regenerative livestock farming. So the farm pretend to be a model and enable us to exchange experience with other professionals, other experts, and farmers. And in conclusion, the farm also in the social community would like to be a place, an open place to exchange experience and knowledge.
Well, how has the local farming and the livestock community responded to this practice? Are they starting to adopt them?
We have been working for more than 10 years to promote and spread these practices, and more and more people are becoming interested in them. The current system is no longer working because ecosystems are becoming really degraded. Livestock farms are really depend on external inputs, mainly food, and farms are becoming less and less profitable. So the community needs new solution and new management practice to be more sustainable, resilient, and productive ecosystem.
Okay, could this model be applied in other Mediterranean regions or even in other types of degraded lands?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. This practice can be adapted to many Mediterranean regions, but also Mediterranean, if not to other degraded ecosystems. Although every landscape has its own conditions, the main principle is always the same, working with natural processes instead of against them. By improving soil health, managing grazing properly, and allowing vegetation to recover, it is possible to restore the ecosystem, increasing biodiversity, and improve the resilience and productivity of the land.
And before we close, what has it meant for you personally to be part of the project like InBestSoil?
I think it has been a very enriching experience. It has helped us to learn more about soil health and ecosystem services. And also the project has support us to develop and promote the living lab in the context of the ecosystem, and to measure the different indicators, soil indicators in El Baldío farms, and to have a better knowledge about economic models in a farm, and also to be in contact with other research, living labs, and Lighthouse has been very valuable to share experience and learning from each others.
Well, we are arriving to the end of this the talk. One question for all: if you could share one key message from this experience, what will be?
For me, the main message is that soil health are the foundation of healthy ecosystem and sustainable farming. And we have to work together, farmers, technicians, researchers, to improve management and measurement these practices, and also to recognize the importance of grazing lands and grazing people and and so on.
Yes, like Maria was saying, I think coordination and alliances between people and between the different countries that are implied in this project is key for a successful conservation project. And I think this is also a good way to show that we need this bridge between scientific evidence and public policy regarding soil health.
In conclusion, I would just add that we can graze more and better by restoring soils and biodiversity.
Well, thank you so much for all. Thank you so much, Rocío, Maria, and Begoña, for sharing this inspiring story of how science and nature can bring life back to even to the most damaged landscapes. And thank you for all that the work that was carried out in the Dehesa, that is excellent, really. And all people that want to know the Dehesa, please go, because it's an excellent ecosystem that should be preserved. And also they have excellent food and excellent landscapes to be there. Well, thank you so much, and all for listeners. Thank you for joining us in the Soil Talks from the InBestSoil Project podcast. That stay tuned for the next episode where we will discover more about European living soils and the people working to protect them. Thank you so much.